be you live.
Say what?
You be you live.
Oh yeah.
You be you live.
You be you.
You be you live.
Let's go.
Is live.
The vibe is live.
You be you, that's how we thrive.
That's how we thrive.
Real talk, good people, big hearts collide. All together,
It's you be you live. Take the ride.
You be live, welcome's Martin and Martin Stark. You be live, we're just starting.
You be you live. We gon' stand
Be
tall.
live, running big flooding. Martin and Martin Stark. You be live, we're just starting.
You be you live. We gon' stand tall.
keep it bold, keep it true. We shine bright when we do. You, all together, not a copy, not a clone. This is the space to own your soul.
Say you be. You be.
Say you lie.
You lie.
Say you be.
You be.
Now bring that vibe.
Let's go.
You be live, running in the Martin and Martin Stark. You be live, we're just starting.
You be you live. We gon' stand
Be
tall.
live, running in the Martin and Martin Stark. You be live, we're just starting.
You be you live. We gon' stand tall. Keep the energy high. You be you live. Let your spirit fly. You be you live. It's you be you. And that's the power we bring to you. You be you live. Keep the energy high. You be you live. Let your spirit fly. You be you live. It's you be you. And that's the power we bring to you. You be you live. Say what?
You be you live.
Oh yeah.
You be you live.
You be you.
You be you live.
Let's go.
You be you live.
Say what?
You be you live.
Come in.
You be you live.
You be you.
Welcome, welcome.
Let's go.
You be live, welcome's Martin Stark. You be live, we're just starting.
You be you live. We gon' stand
Be
tall.
live, welcome's Martin Stark. You be live, we're just starting.
You be you live. We gon' stand tall.
Welcome's Martin Stark. You be live, we're just starting.
You be you live. We gon' stand tall.
Welcome's Martin Stark. You be live, we're just starting.
You be you live. We gon' stand tall.
Hey everybody, this is William Rochelle, and you can call me Bill. Welcome to UBU Live, and I am here today with my new bestie, Martin Stark, y'all. Hey Martin.
Hey, morning, mate. Well, we had a conversation on Friday, and I'm here showing on Monday morning.
Okay, so you said you wanted to start off.
Yeah, so just want to start by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land where I currently am, the Gamma-Rego people, and pay respects to elders past, present, and emerging.
There you go. Love that. So I didn't really know Martin, and I had an issue, and it's not a bad issue. It was I recognized that I needed help in a specific area of my life, and I am a part of several different networks. One being the LinkAbility Network, which Martin and I are both a part of, with Lanier Johnston, and I expressed. I acknowledged. I didn't express. I acknowledged that I kind of blundered in interview, and Martin, being the courageous person that he is, the courage champion is, I think, how you describe yourself, Martin.
Yeah.
He immediately just said, "Hey, reach out to me," and so we spoke on Friday. We could have probably spoke for hours, but and it was just life changing. And I thought it was a super cool conversation. And I immediately said, "Hey, let's talk on Sunday," and you agreed. So I'm going to stop there.
So, as background to the conversation, so Lynette Johnston, she has an amazing business, LinkAbility, and she's built a community. We catch up every few weeks. And I hadn't joined a session for about a month or so. And Bill was just talking, and he was expressing himself. He was being very courageous in sharing that he had an interview that he didn't perform in the way that he wanted to perform, is probably the best way what I describe that, and how he was talking about how he doesn't feel he doesn't perform in the interview to his expectations. And I'm saying to his expectations because I think there's this perfectionism standard, unless we do things a certain way, we're not achieving. But when Bill was answering questions from members of the group, Bill was being Bill. Bill was just answering succinctly. He's giving really good examples. So I actually saw in that moment a very quick change where Bill was probably performing how Bill would like to perform in a job interview. And really, there was just something clicked within him. And that was
Yeah.
brave, working through that fear into probably how he wanted to perform in an interview. And I see that as a difference in seeking to impress versus simply just expressing yourself.
That is such a great response. And am I echoing on your side or my side?
Good here.
All right. So that was a great response. And I spoke to Scott today. And I just said, this is what I was feeling. And he confirmed it. He said, when I'm with you, Bill, you don't have to say anything to impress me. But when you're being interviewed, you're not being you. You're trying to be what you think you're trying to meet other people's expectations. And I am going to be intentional with continuing on this journey with you, and I'll be speaking with Gina as well and Lanier on Tuesday. But I'm going to encourage everyone out there to be courageous enough to admit where you're not hitting the mark. And it doesn't mean Martin, it doesn't mean that you're failing or you're messing up or any of that. It just means that's not where you feel most comfortable. And let's figure out, by reaching out, let's figure out how we get you more comfortable in that skin. Does that make sense, Martin?
It does to a certain extent. And there's a problem of this part-time courage or part-time confidence. When there's one subject that people are uncomfortable about, that discomfort can really stymie any progress. So you might not be hitting the mark, but I'm going to ask you, are you hitting the mark that you set for yourself? Or is it a mark that really you're doing quite well? Somebody else saying you're delivering to expectations or you're exceeding expectations. So make sure the standard you're setting for yourself is actually reasonable and attainable. And that's something who struggled with perfectionism. Who really, unless I met the standard I set for myself, I wasn't performing. Where the opposite was the case. I was floundering by not being kind to myself, all of those things around self-care. So when you're talking about the mark, really be reasonable to yourself on, is it something you're not performing well in? It could be you're not hitting your sales numbers this week because it's a difficult time of the year. But 3 weeks ago, you were hitting your sales numbers. So give yourself some credit, give yourself some grace. However, if you're not hitting your sales numbers and it's due to maybe you're not closing as well as others, maybe seeking the advice to how can you improve. So come up with a period of grace to yourself, but also the courage to say, hey, I can improve in this area, and getting advice and support from people who you know, like, and trust, or implementing learnings and wisdom. That's really how I see those sustainable habits of courage, making courage a habit.
Absolutely. And so in there, and guys, I'm getting older, so if I don't ask a question right when I think it, sometimes I lose it, but it's okay. I'm never looking for perfection. because I believe that perfection is oftentimes unattainable. But I'm always looking to be that much better than I was yesterday and to continue to improve. So perfection is not what I'm looking for. However, in the interview process, I think I need to be confident in what I know. This is me, by the way. Everyone is different, and not try to interview with the intent to impress somebody else. To stand strong on the background that I've had, and if the fit's right, the fit's right. And what do you think about that?
When I hear somebody saying, I think I need to be confident, or I think I am confident, there's some kind of condition on you being confident. For me, that signals the lack of confidence. Right? I need to be confident in an interview. I need to show up by being presentable, appropriately dressed, well groomed, and answering questions in a succinct manner that gives them the information they need to see that I'm the best candidate for the job. Now, there's a very different part than what you were mentioning. That I must be this, I must be this, I must be this. You're setting all of these standards for yourself. And you're already going in by putting barnacles there for you, that unless you scrape off those barnacles, how are you going to perform in the way that you can perform? Because you're going in already thinking, I'm not doing this. You're already going in not feeling confident. I think that's the difference. Is you go for a job interview, you look at the job description, you maybe have 8 to 12 stories of examples when you've achieved something, a barrier, solved a problem, done your research on the company, and you go in and you know you have those tools, that information ready at hand. But the interview is a conversation. The more you feel comfortable as part of the conversation, the more it will flow, the more it will fly. There will be challenging questions, but a job has challenging questions because they need to see how you will perform in the role.
Right. And one of the things you told me on Friday, which I heard loud and clear, was to have examples that are relatable.
Yeah.
And I tend to again want to be and a lot of people can't relate to the fireworks. They want to hear day-to-day challenges that you've done that can relate to the operation that we are working with. So my what's the moment that you realize that courage is going to be the centerpiece of your life's work?
About 10 years ago, there was a line in a performance review. The organization I worked for, they had they had 5 ratings, and it was outstanding, high achiever. I think it was like good or effective, and I was always high achiever. And then I had a line in the performance review said I want Martin to be more courageous, and that really switched things on for me. And the following year, I got outstanding, and I was happy in what I was doing. I was doing far better than what I was doing before because I was given the organisation I worked for their biggest outsourcing contract, and I achieved. And it was just a case of being courageous. I was always part-time courageous. When I felt comfortable, I was courageous. When I wasn't, I went through this whole dance and rigmarole until I met that standard. Not listening to what people were saying about me. So that was the period when I really switched on. But I've survived comas. I've survived different periods of life. I've been hospitalized over 70 times. I almost died twice just before Christmas. So I've been through all of these different periods where courage has helped me through very difficult life and health challenges. I just needed to turn that on in my professional life.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you guys now that it's going to be bad here. So just a second, you went out. Are you? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, good. Do you want to talk about the health issues, or I don't know what you. I want to make sure you feel comfortable um, speaking on it, and then telling people how you're dealing with it today.
So yeah, more than comfortable to talk about health issues for people who probably don't know me. I was in 2-induced comas almost 20 years ago, had a life-saving tracheotomy, and then I was diagnosed with a rare autoimmune condition, Addison's disease. And my body doesn't produce cortisol, which is your body's stress-producing hormone. In the event of a major infection or psychological stress, your cortisol levels increase. Mine don't. It's like a Qantas plane taking off from Sydney now to fly to New York, only having enough fuel to make it to Brisbane, which is the next kind of major city along the seaboard. So I had to take replacement cortisol for the last 20 years and been in and out of hospital, had 4 major surgeries. So I talk about those openly because it's part of my story and it's part of who I am. So those are the different ways you can bring aspects of your life into a job interview, into a scenario. Tell me a time when you overcame a problem. You're working on a major project and you didn't hit a milestone. So you worked doubly hard to make up for it and exceed the next milestone. So there are those relatable examples that you have in your life, which are of value to a customer, to an employer, to people you meet at a networking event. And that was there was a question about my best networking tip. My best networking tip is about have your story, who you are, more than about what you do, is just have relatable stories, things that you do well.
The funny thing about that is I believe that certain people can be great storytellers in the right moments and in front of the right audience. So one of the things about speaking with you, Martin, is when I'm talking to you, I feel as if I'm getting the visual cues, the nonverbal cues to understand which direction I'm going in, whether or not I'm confusing you or whatever. As a keynote speaker, do you find that your performance is different when your audience is reacting to you, similar to like a stand-up comic, right? If you're sitting in front of a group of people and no one is laughing, you start to flounder.
It's about adapting to the audience. So
Okay.
there'll be a moment where something might not land with, for example, a chamber of commerce, that it might do with a school or an organizer. So there are different things. So you continue on the journey. My strategy for keynotes is one message or story per slide, and I try to have as few slides as possible. But there's also how you engage and interact with the audience. So as a speaker, my job starts way before I'm on stage. It's with meeting with the client. Tell me about your event. Tell me about your audience. What do they need? And tailoring each presentation to the audience. So, for example, I might be talking about industry if I speak into a technology organization, about the technology industry. But I was speaking in front of accountants, I might use the term profession because it's more of a profession. So those are the different ways of being adaptable and relatable. And if people don't react in a certain way, is some people, like I'm an introverted extrovert, there'll be times I just want to sit back, relax, and not really engage as would do in another scenario because I might be leading the conversation. It might be a very different environment. So sometimes somebody might not be reacting in a way that we like, but you don't know what that person is thinking. I think it's just having the courage to be yourself.
Just recently, it wasn't your show; it was someone else's show. I don't think you're on it, but one of the things I put into the comment section was I often ask people when I'm speaking to them what they heard me say, especially if we're not on the same page, right? There's a conflict. And so the reason why I ask, what did you hear me say? Is because we often make statements, but what I actually said and how the person listening perceived it could be different. And so understanding where that communication gap is helps me to kind of solidify that 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 canyon, and makes it easier for us to walk through together. The other thing that you talked about yesterday was the power of the pause.
Yeah.
And that's right. I'm going to do right now is I'm going to pause and listen to you.
I didn't say anything for a couple of seconds. The pause is a very powerful emotion. You ought to think about something. The absence of communication for many is uncomfortable. But why is it uncomfortable? Somebody isn't saying something. But often in life, you'll need a moment to have a think. You're reacting, you're contemplating rather than just kind of doing things as you'd expect. How often do you have time to think? Pause is an excellent way of slowing things down, taking emotion out of something, or maybe adding emotion to something. When somebody is dominating a conversation, you don't react and you pause. You're taking back control. So often the pause, I see it as a moment for you or a moment for somebody else. Now, a balanced conversation has lots of pauses because you finish what you're saying, you pause, and the person responds, and it's dialogue. It's not monologue. This conversation right now, I'll pause, but it will continue. Well, it stops, I'll continue. That's a very balanced and engaging conversation. So that's really the power of the pause. And as a keynote speaker, the pause is me accentuating a point or asking or inviting the audience to engage and think.
What's so strange about the power of the pause is that when I said we spoke about it and then said, now I'm going to defer to you, you paused. And in that moment, I had to resist the opportunity because of that pause to jump in and say something else. Do you find that people have a need to fill in that gap at times? Is that natural?
It is natural. And a lot of people maybe lack confidence, not as brave as they want to be. The talking is themselves dealing with that discomfort. I mean, talking and talking and talking is a sign of being nervous. And talking around something, it's actually unclear what you're saying. I'm a big believer in being succinct at the beginning so people understand what you're talking about. And that then invites you to be more expansive in what you're saying. Title of a book gets your interest. The synopsis really gets the intrigue going. I want to read this book. But how often have you read a book without looking at the cover or the synopsis? You've just started reading a book. I don't think I ever have. When have you gone to see a film without knowing the title of the film or what it's about? Probably very rarely. So that's the balance of being succinct at the beginning and then expanding, inviting people as human beings. We want to know what something is before our minds relax and wanting to know more. Because when we're unsure about something or confused about something, it's hard to get clarity.
Makes 100% sense. I keep going back to Jay Trivedi's statement on here, and the reason why I keep going back to it is it's so important to me that not only you are doing this in this moment, Martin, but that we all do it. That we let people know that life doesn't always just go like this. There are successes and failures, and you fall forward. Everything's a moment, and you just dive through it. a lot of people assume that when you present a certain way, that your lifestyle has always been easy. Can you talk on that and how you overcome those challenges, but not let the challenges become your narrative? Your narrative is a narrative of courage, not a narrative of challenges.
I believe this is all about having a backbone, that resilience, that grit and determination. How did we learn to walk? By learning to crawl. First times we stand up, we're falling over. A few weeks later, our parents are wishing we're crawling again because we're running around, exploring life. When you learn to ride a bike without training wheels or stabilizers, you fall off. A few weeks later, you might go on bike rides with your mates. So there are different periods of life when we've had to overcome the challenge of failing to improve. We learn that through childhood. Why did we stop that in adulthood? Tell me somebody who has always passed every single exam. What did they learn by avoiding failure? What has failure taught you?
The biggest
Everything
lessons.
you failed at has led you to where you are right now, because some of the best learnings are by making those mistakes, because it helps you avoid making bigger ones or the same ones later down the line.
And it moves you into the direction you're supposed to be in. I believe in divine timing, guys. So yeah, bear with me on that mystical solution. I think it's our own mind that we need to get out of, our own heads normally that we need to get out of in order to soar and to achieve greatness. But I also believe that we need to understand our circle, which Martin is now a part of my circle, and make sure that circle is a circle that is uplifting and that tells you exactly who you are and how you can actually be better. One of the greatest, I'm going to pause, Mark. One of the greatest things that someone ever told me was, you need to remember who you are. And sometimes when we stumble, we forget everything that's made us great. We focus on being down. But if you look at your life, Martin, when I look at my life, I can say every time I've been down, the next point has been better than anything I've ever done before. So I don't focus on that moment anymore, or I try not to. And I try to surround myself with people like you that help bring out that courage. Pause.
Remembering who you are, there are moments in life when we face dilemmas where you can make one choice, another choice, or another choice. But when you have made the decision which aligns with your values, when doing the right thing is something that you're pleased you did early on. So you might be in a work crisis where something's blown up and somebody's thrown you under the bus, but you knew you did the right thing. And you've got the emails, you've got the meetings, you've got all of these stuff. So you know you can do to take it on its right path. I think we've all had colleagues who've tried to throw us under the bus, but you did the right thing early on. And that's what helps you get out of a situation. I remember about 20 years ago, I was working for a UK company here in Australia, and there was a big network migration project. And something went wrong with one customer, and it took a weekend to fix it. And I remember that somebody in America wanted to throw me under the bus because the customer should have received a notification email, and they didn't get that. They didn't get that because the person trying to throw me under the bus didn't send the email, and I'd sent her all the information. So instantly she went to fire off, and it came back again. I was getting calls even from the vice president of the region, and I went, here you go. So instantly, just doing something a few days before took me 30 seconds to send that email.
That's interesting.
You see, I think when you live with your values, even in this troubling period we're in right now, we're in this very difficult period of anger and misinformation. But when you do the right thing, most times that's when you'll be thankful that you did. So those difficult choices, when you do by your values and integrity, the right people will see you did the right thing.
I agree. Do you want to answer Bradley Pump's question right here?
What motivates you both to collaborate with new people? It's the final word. It's people. It's that human-to-human connection, the relationships that you build, the friendships that you forge. That's what motivates me.
What motivates me is learning from good people and seeing someone else's point of view, whether it is in line with mine or not, as long as it's based upon love and upliftment. I'm all for it. So what motivates me is to be around people who are not like me and to learn from them and to get the best of them and give them the best of me. Pause.
I just reading Mike's our response to fear can be face everything and rise, but then the opposite. Fear is love, self, others, and the transcendental. Fear is a drain on the creative energy of the universe. Love is the response. My favorite thing there is fear is a drain on the creative energy of the universe. There are two character types which you'll find in many teams and organizations. One is the dogmatic personality, won't let others speak, we've done this before. And the other is that fear warrior, always scared about everything. And as a leader, as a manager, when you come across these characters, at some stage you're going to have to deal with it. You provide the support, you work through, you find ways to turn things around. But there are certain characters that can undermine the confidence of the team. And often I've seen leaders fail to tackle that behavior to the detriment of the team. So there are certain personalities, behaviors that it's crucial that are dealt with because it will undermine the confidence of the team.
Okay. So can you give me an example of something a leader didn't tackle immediately that led to maybe not the demise, but a rip in the corporate culture?
I'll be careful what I say not to name an individual, but
Yep.
let's say a personality who would be constantly talking about issues, raising problems, and would often send out emails to stakeholders. And it would cause problems, but the behavior was never dealt with. And it caused angst and anxiety among colleagues. So it made the task of the team harder to deal with.
Understood. I would throw this one up to,
Because obviously when you're speaking publicly.
yeah, it has to be general.
Yeah.
So there are a couple of things in there that we should address. Number one, not everyone needs to be your best friend at work, but you need to be able to work with them. Not everyone needs to go to the happy hour or any of the other great stuff. Where as someone who's held executive positions, one area where I believe that it needs to be worked on is when people undermine management by going above their direct boss for things that are trivial. And I want to be very, very clear here, right? If your boss is doing something that is making you feel as if you're being targeted, it's harassment in some type of way, it's a unhealthy work environment, yes, you should do what you need to do to feel safe. But if your boss changed your schedule and you're upset, and he changed the schedule because it fits the business needs, that should not go around your boss to the CEO so they can come back to your boss and ask him what's going on. So
So that's probably an example of the two characters I was mentioning earlier. You know, that dogmatic personality, or the person fearing the change, and the way
right,
they manifest their behaviour. And I am probably being a little bit evasive in how I give examples, because this is a case of, well, people who watch this clearly identify who I'm talking about, and you ever
got
want
it.
to kind of, but a culture of courage is one where people can ask questions. You know, there may be times when you go to the CEO because the CEO has a forum where you ask questions, or the CEO leadership are looking for feedback on what's working, what's not working, how to improve a process. Not being friends with everybody at work is probably wise advice, because there's a level of professionalism, there's a level of emotional detachment from work. But you build the rapport, the camaraderie. There are certain stakeholders who might be friendlier than others, other stakeholders who are a bit more reserved, or maybe sometimes brash. You're adapting your personality and style to the stakeholders' needs, to the organization. But when you fear somebody, when you fear something, I think that's when you start to undermine yourself and the ethics of an organization. You find out the culture of an organization when something goes wrong, or where
Absolutely.
you raise an issue. I'll give you a public example, is the Drum, which is a big media organization. They have these awards called the Chip Shop Awards. And it was doing the rounds on LinkedIn over the weekend because one of the nominations, it was very, very offensive. And an artist, he was finalized in 3 of the categories, he withdrew. And it's been interesting to see a big media organization, how they deal with media fallout. And it was to basically deny the problem and then withdraw something and then make a statement. And if you just go on the LinkedIn page, you'll see all of it. But you see, not acknowledging the problem, not apologizing to customers affected by an issue. To me, that's a bad corporate culture. Whereas other organizations, things will go wrong from time to time. There might be a cyber breach. They get on the front foot. They speak to the market. They speak with customers. They apologize. They look at what went wrong. And there's constant communication. For me, that's a sign of a good culture, where they're actually focusing on the needs of the customers for protecting the brand and reputation. Obviously, it's going to reputational hit, but they're really there. They're being courageous. We got this wrong. Be wary of any emails that you get. We apologize. We'll make the fix, and we'll share more information when we have it. That's a sign of a good customer-centric culture.
Well, consumers are also looking for authenticity and some places they can trust. So they're more forgiving than we actually give people credit for, as long as they understand that you've acknowledged the problem. Because, I'm not crazy. So I know the last place I shopped and what happened and why, that there was a breach. So why skirt around it, and what you're doing to protect me, and then we're all good. Speaking of that, I want to give a shout out to Soul Man Aaron Gibson. Last Friday, he walked straight into some things that are happening here in the United States. He didn't shy away from it, and I believe anyone who does that is very brave. What do you have? Do you have an opinion on the backlash that ABC is getting in the United States regarding the dismissal of Jimmy Kimmel and what that means for free speech?
I watched what Jimmy said.
Okay.
And I didn't like it. I think there are certain things, just allow a period. Some things you don't need to talk about. And as a comedian, it's very different. But looking at it, I think it's not as bad. It's not as bad as what I thought it was going to be. I've always believed freedom of speech comes with consequences. I don't believe in the right to incite hatred, to harass other people. I'm not saying I agree with cancel culture, but there's about being respectful.
Yeah.
But if you believe in the First Amendment, then surely why would you cancel something because it wasn't what some people agreed with?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's where you have the problem.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. It really wasn't. It's really not about what he said. It's about who are we as a community, and are we able to have freedom of speech or not? If not, it's just political theater. So we're off of politics, so don't worry. We're not going to stay there too long. Can you tell me a little bit about? And I want to get it right. The World Gay Boxing Championship.
Before that, I just want to answer a previous question.
Oh,
I just made courage a habit. That was my first, the biggest habit. I just made courage a habit. The World Gay Boxing Championships started as an idea 6 years ago. I took up boxing at the beginning of 2018 because at the end of 2017, I almost died from Addison's disease. And the experience of almost dying again brought back memories of being in coma. So I started boxing as a way of dealing with PTSD. So the World Gay Boxing Championship started out as I wanted to compete in boxing at the Gay Games. Boxing wasn't offered by the Gay Games, so I created a not-for-profit World Gay Boxing Championship.
Let's go back. So what are the Gay Games?
So the Gay Games, they're an LGBTQ sporting competition which are held every 4 years. They've been going since 1982. It's the ability for members of the community and allies to participate in an environment where everybody is celebrated.
So it's almost like the Olympics?
It was first called the Gay Olympics and had to change the name to the Gay Games.
Okay. And is it only in Europe or is it international?
It's international. It's been held on every single continent, I believe, apart from Africa.
Okay.
I think they've had like 20 sports, probably about 10,000 participants. It's been held in Australia. It's been held in Hong Kong. It's been held in America several times, in Europe several times. So it's a sporting tournament. And
nice.
Have different sports. Boxing wasn't on the list of sports, so I created the World Gay Boxing Championship to have a competition where members of the community and allies can participate in a way without feeling harassed. And unfortunately, sport is an environment where there's lots of prejudice, there's lots of hatred, particularly for the LGBTQ plus community. So that's why I created the World Gay Boxing Championships.
So what do we do about that? So you and I are individuals, and it's you and me, right? But if you take 5 people to fist and you can knock the hell out of somebody, how do we get past the hate? How do we get past? And I'm talking globally. Our preconceived ideas of what a culture or a person or a demographic is.
Right now, resilience, I think, is the only thing. If we look at social media, the only social media I actively use is LinkedIn. I'm on Substack. But we're in this world of anger and fear. We've seen homophobia increased in sports like UFC to the extent, I see it as it's a default acceptable behavior. You have codes of conduct which say about not being discriminatory or bullying others, but if those codes of conduct aren't acted upon, then it becomes default acceptable behavior. We've seen a rollback of support for the LGBTQ plus community. We've seen companies back out supporting the community. We've seen, so for example, here in Australia, the Australian Football League, the AFL, until a few weeks ago, there'd been never an out gay or bi male. Somebody who retired from the sport 10 years ago recently came out, but you've had incident after incident of AFL sports stars using the F word. And it's FAWGU. So you've had incident after incident, and what tends to happen, there's an apology, but nothing changes. Now, that's why homophobia is a problem, because when it's part of the culture and DNA of the sport, how do you change the culture of the sport? How do you change the environment so that people don't feel hated, they feel accepted? And in the world we're in right now, we're backtracking very quickly on that.
So you and I talked yesterday or Friday, and I said, one of the areas in my life that I struggle with is the fact that being anything other than a straight man has been something that people have frowned upon in America. Having pride was not something that I grew up with. And anyone that does carry that torch, I am so proud of them, because I've forced myself to keep a part of me hidden, right? And I don't naturally speak on it, and we talked about why. But when we have people like you that are out there and that are brave enough to speak on behalf of the community, that is courage. To me, you represent everything that courage is. And it's more than just someone who's fearless and has tons of muscles, because that would be me. That was a joke. Boom, boom.
That's all right. Cool. This is a raw subject for me. It's tough to talk about because it's a lot of the work I've done has been around this.
Right. But I mean, we spoke, and I'm not as courageous as you. I mean, I just told everybody, but it's not something that I'm going to go in depth in. I'm not going to go and speak too much about it. It's a part of me that I've always kept very close to the vest. And guys, when you're living your life publicly, it's okay to keep some things close to the vest. But to have that pride, man, that is courageous.
It's been an interesting journey. You don't know what you can achieve until you really start going on the path of doing something. Interviewed by CNN, The Guardian, one of my highlights was throwing a ceremonial opening pitch for the Chicago Cubs. What a beautiful experience. Person who's never been to a baseball game before. The first baseball game I go to, I throw the ceremonial opening pitch. I think I made a choice early on to speak up and do something. What I found was a community of brave individuals. The price was my mental health. The toll and cost of doing this is you realize there aren't as many brave people as there used to be.
Right.
Social media is an easy place to complain. It's a very easy place to be comfortable in. Why is this problem? Why aren't more people doing something about it? Be the person to do something is you realize who is brave. So, for example, during the Olympics, when Imani Khalif was being bullied by the biggest people in the world, J.K. Rowling, Jake Paul, Piers Morgan, people jump into conclusions and then sharing that on their platform. So I spoke out, I was interviewed by the US press, where I called out the bullying of J.K. Rowling and Jake Paul. I spoke out against homophobia in the UFC to a UK newspaper. That article was then turned into another article where somebody superimposed my picture in between Michael Bisping and Joe Rogan, and Fedor Emelianenko shared that on his Facebook page. Now, Fedor Emelianenko, I think he's known as the last emperor, or the emperor, was one of the biggest heavyweight stars in MMA. He's a friend of Vladimir Putin. So that was shared on his Facebook profile.
Okay.
I've dealt with the leadership of two big boxing organizations, and one has said they won't support the World Gay Boxing Championships, and the other backtrack on two written promises that were going to speak out against homophobia in boxing. So those are the challenges of trying to bring about change. It's putting your name out there, and you think organizations are supportive to the exact opposite, which I won't name publicly. But that's the real challenge of trying to bring about institutional change in sport.
But it's not just institutional change in sports. I think it's changing the narrative. We need to change the narrative about other. And when I say other, I mean anyone other than us, right? Right now, if someone doesn't fit, I'm excluding you and I from this conversation in this moment. But right now, we're delivered social media content that supports our beliefs. So it's just constantly being reinforcing either love or hate or indifference, right? Many people have created an image, not intentionally. I'm going to say that it's unintentionally, an image of the other. And other is going to mean anybody, again, that's not you or me. So I don't know any blonde guys with black glasses. So I think they're all kind of, uppity and bougie. And so that's what I've already created in my head. And then you're constantly trying to overcome a stereotype that you had nothing to do with making. How do you kind of talk on that? How do we overcome that if we're not having a conversation?
Well, it's on the individual. Honestly, I miss the days before social media, before the internet. Very much a bygone era. You would pick up the phone, you would catch up with your mates, you go out, and we didn't have any of the hang-ups that we have right now in many ways. Obviously, there were many issues with society at the time, but it rests on the individual, what conversations you have, what you engage in, what you watch, who you're influenced by, how you communicate with others, what your behaviors are. Things happen because society accepts them. And we've come very, very far in opening up the world through social media and our mobile phones. You can connect with anybody, you can have a conversation with anybody, which decades ago wasn't the case. But at the same time, there's all of this anger and hatred and vitriol and echo chambers. Unless you agree, and that if you could, the ability of disagreeing with somebody, conflict is crucial in organizations, not in terms of, no, you're wrong, but conflict of an idea. There might be a marketing campaign and different ways of want to support a customer in this market segment. How should we do this? Teams having different ideas, and the conflict is the actual conversation, disagreeing with a way forward. How do you find new ways of doing something if you disagree with what's already there? Customers don't like this. Customers disagree with the process. We're taking that feedback from the customer and implementing a new process, which is better for the customer.
I talk that's how I've always become over the entire operation of the company. We talked about this, right? It was really it's because my passion is customer service, and it was always trying to figure out how to build a better mousetrap, not to hire more people, but to make our operation more customer focused and not just to deploy things because we thought it was great. It's really, what does the customer, what are they asking for? And there are some things that customers ask for directly, which you can bring to them. And then there's also that visionary piece, which is, okay, they're asking for this today, but in 5 years, the direction we're going in, this is what we need to be bringing to them. So you need to like concentrate on both today and then the 5-year plan. What is the biggest misconception about Martin Stark?
That I'm courageous all the time. It's probably the biggest misconception.
How do you deal with that?
By showing humility, as I mentioned at the start, I'm an introverted extrovert. This extravagant personality and always there. I think just showing different sides of me, like, which is, there are different sides of our personality.
Okay. Do you feel pressure to be?
No,
Do you feel pressure to not show that you're scared? Do you feel
no,
pressure to always be courageous, or to show
no.
that? Okay.
I think wisdom, experience of life, and
So
showing that. I think the downside of being courageous all the time is you're always the one putting yourself out there and solving problems, and it just creates a rod for your own back. I've always been the person who fixes problems.
Yeah, but when you're courageous, like when you're courageous, you are standing up not just for yourself, but for everybody else.
No, I disagree with that because sometimes you do that, but when you're being courageous for yourself, there are certain things I just don't get involved in. Not my concern. Happy to share support, but some things I'm passionate about, I'll get on solving the problem.
So
it's not my battle. It's not my area.
So how do you determine what's your battle and what's not?
It aligns really with what I'm passionate about, my purpose and my values.
Okay. Got it. Because I struggle with that piece of courage a lot. I have friends that I'm concerned about, and especially in today's kind of atmosphere, and they're not as concerned. And I'm like, okay, don't you see what's happening? Don't you see what's happening? And I feel like I have to be, if you don't stand up for a woman's cause, then who's going to stand up for the gay cause or the black cause? You don't have to be a woman to support women's rights.
There's a danger of, I'm not saying you're doing this, by the way, of speaking on behalf of a community. I'm speaking on behalf of others, of always being, there's a lot of virtue signaling. Like, these are all the problems in the world. Somebody who's not affected with the community in any way, kind of just taking on, championing their cause, even though nobody asked them to do so. That's why I say it comes back to your purpose and values. So for me, advancing women's rights is actually advancing equality and human rights. I remember working at a bank years ago, and 2 male colleagues took 6-month parental leave. The policy of the organisation is that any parent could take parental leave. What's happening is that they're both married, so that their wives, they took the first 6 months of the parental leave, and they took 6 months off. So we often think about women's careers being affected by parenthood. Well, these guys, their careers weren't affected by that. They both got promoted shortly afterwards. But they both talked about how much they loved taking that period of time off. So by advancing rights in one area, you're actually advancing rights for other people. But I think it's also about being respectful. It's about showing dignity and courtesy to other people. At what point are we okay with other people being rude to us? But what happens when maybe you don't say something? Is you allow others to treat you that way? And how are you going to deal with that when they treat other people that way?
Right.
I think that's where all of this comes along. But I'm not I believe in climate change, but I don't always agree with Extinction Rebellion when they're, I don't know, throwing cans of soup at paintings or breaking the
Oh,
law.
no. That's
So
ridiculous.
all of those things, and that's where we've become. Well, but I might vote for a candidate in the election who believes in changing laws. For me, that's what better I can do is my behaviour and my vote.
Excellent. What's one thing that you'd like to that we should take away from knowing Martin Stark? What's one thing that you think you'd like me to keep in my heart about you?
Really, it's my definition of courage, which is take ownership of fear and venturing forward with confidence and resilience. Understanding why you're scared of something, but owning the fear in ways, well, if I wasn't as scared about this, or if I can deal with ways of why I'm scared about something, and then become more confident. Very good resilience by failing, making mistakes, trying, taking on new challenges. Often people tend to be trapped by fear, and that prevents them from really
Moving forward.
Succeed.
Yep. That's one of the reasons why right after we spoke that day, I have a booked and busy schedule. I'm like, I'm getting right back on this horse. I'm going to turn on the cameras, I'll turn on the lights, and I'm going to say that that's not going to be my defining moment. And, the more that we do things that we're not comfortable with, the easier it becomes for us. Although this wasn't an interview of me, I will be on an interview tomorrow with Jackie Hallberg on Just Jack series tomorrow at 9 p.m. I believe. I'll send you guys an invite. And how did we do, Martin? I asked these questions in front of everybody.
I'm going to do the final plug for my book, which is Courage, Your Right Hook.
Where can you buy it?
You can buy it on Amazon.
Okay. Show it again, please.
Show it again. I probably need to change the cover. So it's Courage, Your Right Hook.
Got it. And can you put it in the comments as well? A link to your Amazon on Substack, and I'll copy and put it on YouTube as well.
Okay, let me try. I'm going to find it.
It's okay. We can do it afterwards as well. Are you okay to stay a little bit after we close out?
Yeah,
because
definitely.
It's been an hour, guys, and I am so excited. Martin accepted this this invite. I think he had 2 days to prepare, and we had 300 people show up. So I don't know what he brings to the table, but obviously he's a very popular person. Everybody, I will be with Lanier Johnston on Tuesday at 5 p.m. Just Jax on Monday at 9 p.m. Double check the time, guys, so just bear with me. Next Sunday, I believe it's going to be Gina Balderani, but I need to confirm that with her. And then the Sunday after that, we're going to be live with Miss Maine. Martin, take us out.
It's Monday morning, Sydney. The sun's shining. We're heading into spring, which is probably my favorite time of year. Have an amazing week.
Great. 2 minutes for the outro, and then I'll be right back with you. Okay.
Pause. Listen. Speak.
Every word got weight when you feel that beat. Come on.
Pause. Listen. Speak.
Timing is the weapon and the truth runs deep. Everybody talking but they're not saying much. I don't need the noise, I'm tuned to the touch. When the silence hits, that's when the fire starts. Words cut sharper when they come from the heart.
We don't chase the chaos, no. We don't raise the crowd. Every pause is power. Make your moment last. Power in the pause.
Hold it, wait, rewind.
Power when you listen.
Clear your state of mind. higher. Words ignite the air when you time it. Hold it, drop it, watch them climb it. Power in the pause. Hold it, wait, rewind. Power when you listen to your state of mind. Power when you speak, say it boldly fine. Every pause, every word is the rhythm of time.
Listen, speak.
Every word got weight when you feel that beat. Yeah.
Listen, speak.
This is power on repeat.